Most beginner gardeners think watering plants is easy. You simply take a watering can and water every pot. But that's actually one of the biggest reasons container plants struggle. Some plants die because they get too much water, others suffer because they don't get enough. And the surprising part is both mistakes happen because we don't know when and how to water properly. In this complete beginner guide, I will show you exactly how to water my content plants, how I decide when to water, and a simple method that has helped me avoid most watering mistakes over the years. The biggest watering mistake most beginner make is following a fixed schedule. They water every morning, every evening, or every alternative day because that's the routine they have been told to follow. But container gardening doesn't work like that. Every plant grows differently, every pot holds water differently, and even the weather changes how quickly the soil dries. I have seen two plants sitting right next to each other, yet one needs water while the other is still perfectly moist. That's why watering by the calendar after leads to overwatering or underwatering. Instead of letting the calendar decide, let the soil decide. Once you understand this simple idea, watering becomes much easier and your plants become much healthier. If watering doesn't depend on fixed schedule, then what does it depend on? The answer is simple. It depends on several factors working together. Let me show you with examples from my own garden. First, it is the plant size. A larger plant has more leaves, a bigger root system, and uses more water every day. A smaller plant uses much less water, so its soil usually stays moist for longer. That's why two plants can't be watered the same day, but one may need water again while the other doesn't. The next factor is pot material. Plastic pots and clay pots don't behave the same. Plastic pots hold moisture for longer time use because they don't lose water through the pot itself. Clay pots are porous, so they slowly release moisture through their walls, which makes the soil drier. Pot size also plays a big role. A small pot holds less potting mix and less water, so it dries out much quicker. A larger pot holds more soil, stores more moisture, and usually stays wet for a longer time. That's why small containers often need more frequent checking than the larger. Finally, the weather changes everything. On hot, sunny days, windy days, the soil loses moisture much faster, but on the cloudy days or in shaded areas, it stays moist for longer. The same plant can have completely different watering needs depending on the day's weather. That's why there is no single watering schedule that works for every plant. Plant size, pot material, pot size, and weather all affect how quickly the soil dries. Once you understand these factors, you will stop guessing and start watering with confidence. Now comes the most important part of the entire video, checking the soil before watering. This one habit has helped me avoid most watering mistakes in my container gardening. Before I even pick up the watering can, I always check the soil first. You can simply use your finger or wooden stick like a toothpick or bamboo stick. Push it about 1 or 2 inches into the soil and gently pull it out. If the sticks came out with the moist soil sticking to it, the pot still has enough moisture. So I skip watering for that day. But if comes out clean and dry, that's my sign that plant is ready for watering. You can also use your finger to feel the moisture at the same time. Don't touch a don't judge the soil by looking only at the surface. Sometimes the top layer looks dry because of the sun, while the soil underneath is still holding enough moisture for the roots. That's why checking below the surface is so important. It only takes a few seconds, but this simple habit can prevent overwatering, reduce root problems, and help you understand your plants much better. That's why I always follow one simple rule: check, observe, and water. Let the soil tell you when it's time to water or not the calling. Now let's look at the opposite problem, underwatering. Plants can't tell us they are thirsty with words, but they do give us clear signs if we know that what to look for. The first and most obvious sign is dry soil. If you check 1 or 2 inches below the surface and the soil filter, it's usually time to water. As the soil continues to lose moisture, you will notice the leaves started to droop or look deflat too. Many beginners see dropping leaves and immediately add water, but remember, dropping can also happen with overwatering. That's why checking the soil first is always important. Another common sign is brown, crispy leaf edges. This usually happens because the plant isn't getting enough water to replace what's losing through its leaves, especially during hot or windy weather. Once you confirm that the soil is actually dry, water the pot slowly and deeply until the excess water drains from the bottom. Slow watering gives the potting mix enough time to absorb moisture evenly, helping the roots rehydrate properly. The goal isn't to water whenever the plant looks thirsty. It is to confirm the soil is dry, then water deeply. That's the difference between guessing and understanding your plant's need. As harmful as underwatering. When the soil stays wet for too long, the roots don't get enough oxygen, and then that's a problem begin. You may notice yellowing leaves, constantly wet soil, or even soft stems that feel weak when you touch them. Sometimes the potting mix also develop a musty smell, which is another sign that excess moisture is still staying in the pot. If you notice the signs, don't add more water. Check the soil first. Allow it to dry the right moisture level, and then water only when the plant actually needs it. That you know when to water, let's look at how to water correctly. I always use a watering can because it gives me better control over the flow of water. Instead of pouring everything at once, I water slowly and evenly around the soil. This gives the potting mix enough time to absorb the water instead of letting it run straight out of the drainage hole. After the first watering, I wait for a few seconds. If the soil is very dry, I will water it once more. The second watering helps the moisture reach deeper into the root zone. Finally, I stop only when I see excess water draining from the bottom of the pot. That's how I know the entire root ball has received enough water. Deep watering isn't about using more water. It's about making sure that water reaches the roots where the plant actually needs it. Let's quickly go through some watering mistakes. I often see splashing water over the leaves instead of watering the soil, giving just a little water instead of watering deeply, following a daily water routine without checking the soil, watering again when the soil is already moist, growing plants in pots without proper drainage, and finally the biggest mistake of all, guessing instead of checking. Avoid these simple mistakes and you will solve most of watering problems before even they begin. This is exactly how I water my container plants every morning. I walk through my garden and check each pot one by one and let the soil decide what needs water. If a pot is still moist, I simply skip it. If the soil is dry, I water it slowly and deeply until the water drains from the bottom. That's it. No fixed schedules, no guessing, no watering every plant just because I'm holding a watering can. Every pot gets only what it needs. The simple routine has helped me avoid both underwatering, overwatering, and it is one of the biggest reasons my plants stay healthy. Remember, don't let the calendar decide, let the soil decide.